Hello, Wealth Hacker Nation. It's now Wednesday as I'm recording this. We just had our first free training class on the weekend on the subject of the number one real estate investment strategy this past weekend. The first class sold out in 30 minutes, which resulted in a wait list of over 250 people. We then sent an invite to just that wait list for class number 2, and it sold out in just a few hours. Free classes number 3 and 4 will also be sent to the waitlist, and hopefully after that we can start offering up free training classes again to all of you on fans of the podcast and on my email list. At the class, my team was sharing the how-tos of investing in real estate specific to basement apartments, a strategy implemented by almost every single guest on this podcast, myself personally, and the majority of our clients at iWin Real Estate. In case anyone does not already know, I own a real estate business that helps everyday people from the greater GTA invest in real estate. We treat our clients like family, setting them up with the same power team of professionals we use personally to give them the highest probability of success. If you or your friends and family are interested in learning the best practices of investing with the 4-time Real Estate Agent of the Year in 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018, add to that all the lessons we've learned from over 100 of the top investors, from interviewing 100 of the top investors in Canada, from producing this podcast. We've helped a lot of folks with no experience grow their portfolios to 10 or more properties. If you're interested, you can register at www.investortraining.ca/free class. That's one word. Again, that's www.investortraining.ca/free class. Of course, all of these are in the show notes in case you need to go there for the link when you're not driving or when you're not cooking when listening to this. Speaking of successful clients, we have Kaush Nanubhai returning to this podcast. When we first met Kaush years ago, he had a full-time job in Toronto and was stuck in analysis paralysis for close to 2 years before buying his third investment property, after a long hiatus of owning 2 investment condos in downtown Toronto. Fast forward to today, he's quit his day job and gone full-time real estate investor, and he's here to share about the transition to full-time investor and his latest project, an infill development, where he bought a house, he renovated the basement for a legal basement apartment, then he severed half of the lot. He severed half of the property to build on it a modular home that took him only 30 days to deliver. The house is currently being finished on the inside, including adding a basement apartment. This basement apartment strategy sure is popular. Without further ado, I give you Kaush Nanubhai. Hi, Kaush. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Excellent. What's keeping you busy these days?
I don't know. I guess I got back from vacation recently. We went to Orlando for a week. Nice little getaway.
Disney?
So that was great. Last week. We didn't do Disney this time, but we're starting to go to Orlando. This is like our third time going to Orlando. It's a good place to go and get away quickly, cost effectively. We stayed at a great hotel, the Hyatt. It had great amenities. So we have done Disney and Universal in the past. This time we didn't do it. We just wanted to get away.
Cool.
Yeah.
So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No. I mean, just what I've been up to. I mean, you go ahead. Actually, go ahead.
Well, last time you were on the show, I believe you still had you just left your job.
Yeah.
How long ago was that now?
That was 2 years ago, I think. Just over 2 years ago. I had, last time we spoke, I had a job. I was still employed and working with my partners, but I had made some changes to make it more flexible. Mm-hmm. However, as of January last year, I did go full time, and I've left that firm that I was working with, and I'm a full time real estate investor now. Yeah.
So you don't do any recruiting anymore?
No, I haven't for a bit. There might be a time when I might redo that again, but right now I'm just focused on real estate investing, and there's a lot of exciting things happening out there with the rule changes for bylaws allowing 3 units, things like that I'm exploring, and those types of things. So it's something that I did it for a good 8-9 years, and I have lots of relationships in that area. But at this time, I'm just going to continue to focus on real estate until I feel like I want to make that change back.
Cool. So
do it as a side hustle.
Oh, okay. So when you were you were the firm was a side hustle for you at one point, while real estate was the majority of your time, was it not?
No, I think I was a bit more 50, like 50-50. I mean,
50-50?
I
Okay.
during the days, the days during the business day, I was focused on work. But then, I mean, occasionally I had to slip out here and there to kind of do something, but I was still focused on work. But then I was doing real estate still on actually more like I had a reduced. I was working 10 to 2, so I was trying to fit both in, but it just wasn't working. So I just decided to, take the plunge and focus exclusively on real estate for a little bit. So I did take a sabbatical from that. So, and I'm still on that sabbatical, and I'm not sure when I'll go back or if I'll go back, but it's always an option, which is great. It's just the whole point is I wanted options, right? So I have the option right now to do this, which is awesome.
And I believe you do stock options, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, exactly.
So you survived, eh? So you quit your job, you quit your full-time employment. What's the last year been like?
It's been great. I mean, I've spent a lot more time with the kids, which is one of my goals. I picked them up, I dropped them off to school. It was weird because, at times I felt guilty for not having a job. And, people around you, like, my mom or like other family, like, oh, you don't have a job. What are you doing? Right? Like, how are you making money? How are you doing things? And, I kind of felt guilty for not having a job, but at the same time, and it also took a while to kind of unwind from that corporate world and that kind of go and constantly being busy. So really last year, it was more of a kind of a me year. I just kind of took a break and focused on me. And, I actually had a really good conversation with Jay Gabrani at one of the meetups at IWIN, I believe. He's saying, I was telling him how I was feeling guilty because I'm not working. He's like, calm down. He's like, you're sharpening the saw. I guess one of the habits of Stephen Covey, you're right. Refocusing, and some of your great ideas come when you're not just constantly, focused on the grind, right? So, so like just let it be, and when you're ready, you're ready. So that was helpful to hear it for someone who's years ahead of me a bit, right? In terms of his kind of transition and focus and so forth, right? And establishing himself, right? So
he's talking about the woodcutter story, right? With the sharpening the saw.
Yeah,
was that what he was referring to?
I read the book a long time ago, and he kind of gave me a quick overview, but I don't remember all the details. But it's just you're allowing yourself to just get back to kind of a calm, non-stress, focused, more calm existence, I think, right?
I'll just quickly paraphrase the story for the listeners' benefit. There's a woodcutter, and he's ginormous, big arms, big legs, cuts wood like no problem, cuts a ton of wood. And then there's a new woodcutter that comes along, and he's cutting wood next to him. He's a smaller gentleman, and he cuts just as much wood as the big guy, right?
Yeah.
And so then the big guy figures, I'll outwork this guy. So he puts in like an extra half day, cuts a ton of wood, and then the other man, even though he's a smaller gentleman, he's able to keep up with only like adding 50% of the effort. So he's able to work less than me, but still keep up. One day, the bigger gentleman asks the smaller gentleman, "What do you do that makes you so special? Like, I'm so much bigger and stronger than you. I work harder than you. Work longer than you." What the smaller gentleman was doing was he was sharpening his saw.
Okay. Yeah. No.
When he wasn't chopping wood,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like anyone who's cut wood before, or even just in the kitchen with your cutting knife, I can tell which of my knives is sharper, and that's the one that I usually go towards when I want to cut the right tomato. No. Right. So you're sharpening your saw.
Right. Exactly.
You're being more. You're going to be. You're resting up. You're training up to be more efficient in your life.
Right. And I also wanted to just really focus on what I wanted to do. What's going to actually make me happy and focus and get up not just to do, like, just like I wanted to understand which strategy, which area, what, I wanted to really just be confident that when I start going again, it's going to be stuff that I really enjoy and really have a keen interest in.
Do you have an idea what that is now?
Well, it's definitely more on the development side for sure. I think there's just something very rewarding about seeing something that you've put up in physical, physically there, and it's going to be there. It's almost like a legacy for you, right? So it is more rewarding. I mean, as you know, I'm an accountant, and we used to issue financial statements, audit financial statements, and unfortunately, sometimes it's hard to find a reward in that. And so this has been definitely a different thing. I mean, there's definitely was reward in recruitment and helping people find great jobs, helping employers, find great people to kind of relieve their workload. But when you actually see something physical enter this world and stay in this world, and that something that you built and looks great, looks awesome, a place for someone to live, it just it has a different feeling, right? So
amazing. Where to go next? Let's talk about your current development. How many? Okay, hang on. How many projects do you have right now on the go?
Just that one one right now. I have other things that I'm looking into, but nothing that's kind of kicked off yet, right? So, yeah.
Is this your first development, your current project?
It is, yeah. So essentially what the project in summary, I mean, it was started off as a standard duplex project, right? I mean, it's a property that I purchased back in, I think it was May 2017 with James, right? And at the time, we both went into the house. We're like, okay, this house is good for a duplex. Hey, this lot looks pretty big. Would be nice if we could also, perhaps put another house on it. But we didn't know at the time whether it would be possible.
Okay, so sorry, Coach, just to give the listener some context. What city, and can you get the dimensions of the lot?
The city was St. Catharines. The dimensions are kind of 75 by 150. And the house was situated more towards, looking directly at the lot towards the left side. So it had a side yard, not a backyard, right? So.
Fabulous. And then, sorry, continue with the development story.
Go ahead. No, so then, we by the end of 2017, we had the upstairs renovated, rented, and the downstairs renovated, rented. The funny thing is I went to the city to see if we could, and this is where kind of being in the network and just kind of having the right advisors, would help. It helps you tremendously. I went to the city and I asked them, do you think that I could sever this lot? And, I gave them, they kind of looked it up and they, looked at the dimensions. They brought out the requirements and they said, well, here's the requirements. You don't have enough lot size. You would have to, the variance over here, the setback over here doesn't work and so forth. And I was like, oh, okay, this sounds too complicated. I'm not going to be able to do this. But then, as Charles and Andy, progressed on their Violet project, and I started talking to them about that. I started talking to them about, the lot that I had. They introduced me to a development consultant in the area. And, when I went to them, again, this is the difference between, I guess, asking for permission to the city and telling the city why it would work, right? Once I went to this development consultant, they said, what? It is smaller than the standard, but, I've seen the city approve a variance here. Oh yeah, the setback is a little different, but, the city's approved variances here. So, you know what I mean? Like it just kind of, and they felt confident that this is something that if we went to the committee of adjustments would get approved, right? And it cost me, I think, $1,000 to do a look-see or a kind of, just a high-level analysis, which was well worth it because at the end of the day, we were able to sever the lot. And it was a good, it's just having the right advisors, being in the right network
Right.
is just something that's invaluable. And
Right.
that's why IWIN and other groups that, you can go to and be part of, they're just so invaluable if you want to make this kind of your profession or your main source of income. Right. So.
Right. It's just full disclosure time, folks. Kaush is a client of ours and a member of our IWIN membership. And Kaush is referring to Charles Wah and Aid Tran, who are good friends of both of ours. And we send them business all the time. That's amazing. $1,000 for the investigation and the committee adjustments. And for folks who can't see me, if you want to see Kaush and I, this will be on YouTube. But I was making funny faces at Kaush because of my disappointment. I'll just say it. There's pretty much a housing affordability major issue going on, and the city should have been trying to work with you. How can we create more housing versus telling you, oh, these are all the problems with your lot, which is a ginormous lot.
But
75
part of
by
it
150.
Yeah. But part of it was I didn't have the knowledge, and I kind of I was still working, and I was like, how am I,
Right.
I just.
I understand.
Part of it is just.
But what should the mandate of the city be? What is the mandate of the current government?
Housing.
Both the federal and provincial mandate government. What is their mandate? Right.
Affordable housing, for sure.
Affordable housing, and here are employees not helping you. They're actually hindering.
Yeah. I mean, they could have been a little more. Tell me that. I mean, at the end of the day, probably it falls a little bit on both sides. Me not having knowledge and them not promoting, a bit more on how to get it done, right? So, and it all depends on. Here's the other thing. It all depends on who you speak to on the other side of the counter when you go to the city too. If you have a junior person, if you have someone more seasoned, someone who's more attuned to, what the city's objectives are, it really depends. That's why when you work with a consultant or an advisor, they know who to take it to. They know how to position it. They know, what the city is looking for and how, what some of the objections were and that type of thing. So, definitely a good lesson there. Yeah.
How much is a consultant? I don't even know.
Well, it depends, right? It depends on how much you get them involved with. I mean, it's just like a professional services firm. They have an hourly rate and, depends on how much you get them involved. For me, for my consultant, they help me with preliminary design. They help me kind of get in touch with surveyors. They help me, they type up a development letter, like stating why this fits with the city's objectives and so forth. They attended a committee of adjustments meeting with me, that type of thing. So, yeah, I mean, it was in the tens of thousands at the end, but maybe depends, 20, maybe, I don't know, 20, 30 at the end. But it involved a lot of back and forth and a lot of consultation, and me being new as well, asking a lot of questions, right? You ask a lot of questions, it takes more time, right? So I think for me, this was a great learning, and I know that I probably am over budget when I speak to other people about this project than, a more experienced person, but it's all about learning. If you want to, what I'm finding is when you want to get into development, you have to do development. And sometimes that means you pay extra in the beginning, right? To kind of get it done. The great thing was this is contained on a lot where I was able to sever, so I didn't have to pay for the lot on top of it, right? I did pay for it in fees, but to get it severed, but I didn't pay for the lot on top of that, right? So,
what's the market value of that lot if you were to sell it?
I think it was closer to. I'm not. Probably it depends. It depends on how you value it too. So if you look, but I think they're closer to about 75 to 100, roughly.
That's it for a buildable lot.
It depends. Yeah, it depends though. I've seen lots going for more, and it just depends because there's a lot of the lot itself. The lot itself is probably closer to 100 to 125. But when you value it in order to get, you take away a lot of those costs. There's a lot of the costs that, like all the consulting fees to get to that point, you minus them when you do the city valuation. So the city valuation is because you have to pay a 5% parkland dedication fee. So obviously, you're allowed to deduct certain things after you get a value. So yeah, so it just depends on which valuation you're talking about as well. So I guess if you're just going to sell it, probably about 100K.
That's it, eh? I was just at lunch, and my friend was telling me she's looking at selling one of her properties in Toronto, and the comparables, like for like 50 by 120 lots, roughly. There was a teardown house listed for 1.3, and a house that already had the application for severance in, also a 50-foot 50-foot wide lot. Application was already in, and they were asking 1.5.
Just for the lot. Yeah.
Just for the lot.
Yeah, it's a bit different.
Just a small difference. And then what did you do with that lot? What did you do with the lot that you severed?
So we were building a house on it. We're in the process right now.
Just to give the listeners some context, by severing, Kaush now has a completely separate, brand new title to that piece of land. So,
correct, and it's different than the original house is on the other lot, which is already duplex and generating income, and then now there's an empty piece of land that we're building another duplex on, essentially. At the end of the day, when we're done, it'll be a duplex, another legal duplex. So 4 units on one initial lot.
Love it. Okay. All right. So go on. What did you do with that separate lot?
Yeah. So we went through the severance process, which, after you get approved for severance, there's a number of conditions you have to fulfill. So you have a year to do that. And I would advise, as a tip for anyone who's going through this, get those done as soon as possible, because there's a lot of hiccups along the way. Little things you wouldn't think about, where if you leave it towards the end, you can get very tight on time. And if you miss that date of getting all the conditions satisfied, you have to go back to the committee of adjustment stage to get it reapproved. So I know this because I was just like a week before the deadline when I got everything done. So, but there's a lot of steps involved. In St. Catharines, you have to sign a development agreement. And, that agreement has to get reviewed by a number of different parties in the city. So that takes some time. And when you're in the summer, you fall into vacation schedules, that type of thing. That agreement also has to get approved by your bank. So, try to take a contract and get it signed at the bank by head office and see how long that takes. I was lucky that I have a financial advisor that pushed things through a bit for me. But that was part of the process. There's other permits, other fees to pay. So just my tip to everyone when you're fulfilling those conditions is to get them done as soon as possible. So once
you're enjoying this, and you're enjoying this process. Yeah, no. Good.
And once that, while that was happening, I was also planning the design of the building, working and evaluating options of whether I should stick build or should I do a modular building process.
So stick build would be framing from scratch, right? Is that right?
Correct. Right. Okay. So yeah, you put the foundation in, you put the frame up with wood and 2x4s and so forth, and then you put in all your plumbing and so forth and drywall, that type of thing. Whereas the modular process, we have in this case an 1,800 square foot 2-story house that comes in 4 different pieces and it gets dropped on the foundation in about 5 hours. So basically, we did go through the modular. I decided to go the modular process, and I think we started in early November, and end of October, early November. So in about a month, just over a month, we had a house delivered on site, dropped on the foundation, and it was about 70-80% complete. So within a month, you could get to be able to get to that point within a month was pretty cool.
Why don't more people choose to do modular?
Yeah, I think one thing is, in the past, I don't think it was as cost effective. When I did my cost analysis, it was similar to having a GC just build the house and being a bit hands off. This requires me to be a little more hands on, but not that much more. But so I think cost hasn't been as favorable in the past, but I think costs are a little more reasonable nowadays. And now that you have some efficiencies in technology and so forth, and efficiencies in the process. I think the other thing is there's a lot of perceptions of modular. When you think of modular, you think like trailer park, or you think of a portable school. You think of very, and that's kind of the, I'm
I
telling
think
you this is what
cottages.
people are telling. Yeah, cottages.
That's my
Something
context.
that's a little less
Low quality,
desirable.
less
Yeah,
care.
low quality. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Right. So that, I think that's another thing, perceptions as well. So I think that's some of the key reasons. But in areas like Quebec, in provinces like Quebec, like it's fairly common, right, to build a modular house. So it's just, I think, in Ontario. And I think the other thing is, from what I understand, that a lot of home builders, I guess development is a interrelated family and other type of business. So if you build modular, you're probably taking jobs away from your cousin. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So who does the framing or so forth. I don't know. I think these are just things that I've heard, right? So
interesting. Because Mattamy has a form of modular home. I don't know if it's considered modular, but they have they actually have manufacturing facilities to build houses indoors.
Yeah, no, I've heard that. I heard they build houses in Milton that way. So, but I don't know much about that. Yeah.
I've driven by the facility many times in Cambridge, Ontario. They build it indoors. Because just think, how much nicer would it be to work indoors as like a framer versus outdoors in this winter?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that some of the reasons. Yeah, there's some reasons. Like some of the reasons that I picked modular was I actually, and you're aware of this, I had a lot of bad experiences with trades, right? One in particular, one contractor in particular, and again, not all contractors are bad. I've had some great contractors as well, but I had a bad experiences where I probably left. I had to let the contractor go, and I probably left. I paid in advance a little too much, and I probably left about maybe $20,000 on the table. Where so that was a good lesson I learned through the School of Hard Knocks. So dealing with contractors and trades, and trades are hard to come by as well sometimes, like good ones, right? So
more so than ever. I think it's got progressively harder as the economy's gotten better. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. So that was one thing. It reduces the amount of trades you have to. You deal more with finished trades or semi-finished trades because there's still some work you need to get done. Then it just reduces the amount of contact and people that you need to coordinate. Number one. Number two, there's a little more cost certainty. Like, the price of a lot of materials have gone up as well. But like when you buy a modular home, you lock in the contract, even if it's 6 months out, if costs go up, you still have that price, right? Mm-hmm. And it's cost certain because, there's always scope creep or someone saying someone did this way, so I'm going to have to do this extra, which I didn't have in my quote, that type of thing, right? So cost containment was one reason. The other reason was it was quicker. Obviously, as I mentioned to you, like to have a house, to have the foundation done and then the house dropped on the foundation. If you coordinate it the way we did right away, within a month and a bit, you could have a house at 70% complete, once you start, first from the point where you put the shovel in the ground, right? So that reduces carrying costs. It just, allows you to do more in a shorter time period. Like, for example, in the recruitment business, or even in the real estate business, the only way to make more money is to do more in less time, right? Like in the recruitment business, you do more searches, you try to reduce the cycle time and do more, right? Or take higher value searches on, right? So you can charge a higher fee because the fees are based on a percentage of the base salary, right? So so quicker allows you to get more done, right? It's a better, in my opinion, and from what it's a better quality house because it's not exposed to the elements, as you mentioned, when you're building, right? Like I know, depending on when you build, like sometimes you have to tarp over a framing, you have to, this type of thing to avoid the elements getting inside the house. So, wind, snow, depending on when you're building, rain, that type of thing, right? So, that's one thing. Yeah. Canada, right? Yeah. The other thing is the actual structure itself, because it has to be hoist, like it has to be lifted with a crane. Like the framing structure itself is beyond kind of the code requirements because you do have to lift it and drop it onto the foundation, right? So the actual framing itself is beyond code. So the structure itself is, like I said, more sturdy, I would say, as well.
That's fantastic.
At the end of the day, though, like it gives you the ability to scale. And another reason I did it is because it can be applied to different strategies as well. Like there's applications for this type of, for a modular apartment to be perhaps dropped on or built on top of, say, a garage. So laneway housing, right? Or with, many municipalities allowing a third dwelling to be put on a lot within bylaw. You could build a granny house or another coach house or something like that fairly quickly with this type of process. So
I know, I can't wait.
It's a good add-on strategy that I really wanted to kind of get familiar with. And again, if I want to be a developer and I'm looking for smaller subdivisions now, smaller plots of land where you can do a smaller subdivision, 10 houses, that type of thing. Like you don't have to worry about, you have almost like a back end already put in place, in terms of getting the everything started. And what I like about it is you can build in a traditional build, you have to build sequentially. Whereas in a modular build, you can build simultaneously, right? You can get the foundation done and while someone else is building the modules in the factory, right?
That's fantastic. No, I love this. Can you share some numbers with this project?
I'm still kind of in the process of, tabulating and getting quotes and that type of thing. So I don't have, I think by say next IWIN meeting, like the end of this month, I'll have a better idea. I haven't put everything together yet, but I mean, preliminary, I mean, like I said, it was similar to, so it was very similar to having a GC, which was kind of closer to the 200 to 225 per square foot mark, right? So,
is that finished? Including services and including your kitchen and all that sort of stuff?
Correct. Yeah.
All the finishings. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the house came with like a majority of the finishing. Just to give you the viewers understand, the house comes with a kitchen installed. It has the washrooms have toilets. There's vanities in. There's plumbing in. There's all the faucets are in. The only thing that it doesn't come with is, I mean, the drywall's up as well, except they leave certain drywall pieces open for, because you have to connect the plumbing, HVAC, and electrical between the modules and then connect it to the main services.
Right.
So, certain drywall is left open, but the drywall's already primed. Like my pot lights are in, but what you need to do is, patch up those drywall, get the services connected, and then the flooring as well, flooring and some trim, which is the next step for us. So we're, it comes, like I said, 70 to 80% complete.
Fantastic. And how far are you away from tenants moving in?
Yeah, so for the upstairs, I'm looking at March 1st at this point. Just things got a little slower during the holidays, with not only some of the trades, but also the inspectors being on vacation as well. So we just had our plumbing pass last week. So one thing that we're doing, Erwin, is like as part of the initial permit, I'm doing all the underground plumbing for the basement unit. So when I apply for a permit for the basement unit, in the permit, I'm not going to be digging up concrete. I'm not going to the plumbing's already going to be done for the downstairs, right? Because we know what we want to do, we're doing everything in advance. So it's a little more efficient when we're doing. So the basement suite should technically take 2 weeks less, than a standard kind of conversion project.
Amazing. And then what do you think the rents will be?
Well, based on what Charles and Hendy got and the area that I'm in, I mean, I definitely the upper unit, since the upper unit's going to be 2-story. So
Which
We have
doesn't
4
happen.
bedrooms. Yeah,
New construction,
which is
folks. This is new construction.
yeah, which is 4 bedrooms upstairs as well,
Wow.
right? And so it's going to be north of 2,000 at least. I think closer to 2,200 or is what I'm thinking. But I'm going to obviously do my analysis once probably fairly soon, so that I can start getting some showings even before it's done.
And they have their own HVAC. They have everything. They have all their own mechanicals, right? Furnace, air conditioner.
Yeah, no, I mean it's not separated. Like, so what's going to be separated is hydro, but the water and the furnace are going to be still one, shared between. And I'm just going to do an all-inclusive price with those items and do it plus hydro.
Got it. And then for the basement?
Basement, I mean, it's going to be a standard basement, so probably 1,400. In St. Catharines, that's probably but that's probably where it's going to be. Yeah.
And then
it's
what do you think?
800. It's going to be 650, right? Because in St. Catharines, you can only do a certain square footage of a basement suite, right? So.
Yep. Fun St. Catharines. And then what's the ballpark on the build price?
Well, like I said, it was closer to 200 to 225 per square foot, something like that.
And how many square feet?
1,800.
Total 1,800.
Mm-hmm. So, with the base, I mean, adding the basement suite, add plus another 60 to that for the basement suite. Right? I mean, I did an as-is appraisal and it was closer to the 620 mark.
That's fantastic.
As built, based on the plan. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, so folks, just I know some of you guys are driving that are listening to this, or you're on the GO train, you don't have a calculator handy. The build cost is around 400,000, but your appraised based on the plan is 620, and
the basement suite. So sorry, the cost with the basement suite, if you add another 60, 50, so 450, 60 cost with the basement suite fully duplexed, and then the as built is around 620 after as well. So
620 appraised.
620 appraised with the legal suite, yeah. So just comparing apples to apples, yeah.
So does your 450, 460 include the your severance costs, or is that just build?
Yes, that's soft and hard costs.
Oh, this
like
is even better.
But like I said, we got to. I still got to tally everything. That was just my initial projection. So there have been some pluses and minuses throughout. So, and I haven't sat down and I've been on the go a bit, been on holidays. So I haven't sat down and kind of looked at those pluses and minuses right now. I've definitely, like I said, I'm happy to share more towards the end of the month when I have all my quotes back and so forth.
So we're still talking about around 3,500 in rent a month annually. That's over 42. Wow. So somewhere around $42,000 in rent a month plus utilities, and your build soft and hard is around, let's call it 455,000. So that's like a 9.2% rent to cost of property. And you don't get that anywhere. And now you have a brand new property.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, it's been a great experience, and definitely looking to do a lot more down the road for sure, in different types of applications too.
Will you be looking to do more like this to do severances?
Yeah.
You mentioned tertiary suites at the beginning as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like the great thing about this is you can apply it to different types of strategies. So I think I'd look for lots to sever. I'd also look for vacant land that was at a reasonable price. I'd also look for lots that would allow you to add a third unit that made sense as well. So I think all of the above. I mean, I do want to start getting into to larger projects. But if, like I said, these adding a third unit or severing, there's good opportunity that came my way, I definitely would look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great ROI. The bigger, the feedback you hear on the bigger stuff, it's actually really hard to scale with all the additional soft costs that are involved. Mm-hmm. No, very cool. And I want to get back to the benefits of being a full-time investor. I know your son's in competitive hockey, so you're really busy with that. Your daughter is in, what is it, dance?
Well, actually, she's funny enough. She's in competitive hockey now as well. So she's on a rep team as well now. So we're, wife and I divide and conquer. She mainly takes care of my daughter, except for obviously when scheduling conflicts and that type of thing. And I usually kind of go out with my son. So my son's probably on the ice six times a week. And my daughter is probably more like 4 times a week. Yeah.
Do you notice that, like in my experience, I've noticed that I'm usually the only dad that makes this stuff. Are you noticing that as well?
Makes what? Sorry?
I'm usually, for example, when I go to something related to my kids, related to school or after programming, I'm usually one of the few dads, especially if it's before 9 or 5 o'clock. Are you noticing that as well?
No, actually, not in hockey. I think a lot of the dads seem to be in kind of sales jobs that allow some flexibility. It's a mix. Sometimes it's the mom, sometimes it's the dad. I think everyone takes turns. Sometimes it's the grandparents. Some families, they have like 3 kids in rep, and so you definitely need the additional grandparents to help out as well. Or families help each other, right? And when you live close to another family, you can pick up someone's son and take them and drop them off too, right? So, cool. Yeah.
My kids do jiu-jitsu, so it's all indoors in the same place every time. It's 5:30 in the evening. I will never complain about 5:30 in the evening. What time is Arjun on the ice?
Like, what do you mean? Like, different times all the time, right?
Oh, it's not consistent?
In the morning. I mean, mainly evenings and weekends, right? Evenings. So it's 5, 6, 7 sometimes, right? So it's the away games are typically on the weekend, so you have to try to travel and get there. You don't have to worry about traffic, that type of thing.
Right. And your son's the victim of success, so you actually have to go to additional games as well.
Yeah. I mean, he loves it. So, and to be honest, like for my wife and I, we love watching. We love watching our kids develop, and we love watching them try hard. There's a lot of coaching in the car afterwards about working hard, passing, and being part of a team. And we just it's part of our why to spend time with them, and to kind of teach them lessons through sport. We really value. So for us, it's not like, oh man, you guys are crazy, you have to go 5 times a week, or it's for us, it's just our life, and it's just something that we enjoy, right? So
amazing. That's fabulous. Did you think you'd be at this point when we first met? Like what, 4 years ago?
5 years.
5 years? Because when we met 5 years ago, you had 2 properties, if I'm correct. 2 properties at the time.
So when 2
plus your home.
condos. Yeah, plus my home. Yeah, correct, right. Yeah.
And those condos have done well, right? Because I heard that condos, City Place is getting a school or something. 2 schools.
I know there's already one monastery. Oh yeah, City Place is. Sorry, yeah, the other development across the street, which is part of City Place. Yeah, they are getting some schools there. Yeah.
So no, your rents are going up.
It's done well. Yeah, my rent I just had a tenant move out, and a new one move in, and my rent went up $200 in just a year, right? So, 2,300, I believe, for a 700 square foot condo, which is great. I mean, those condos they've been really good. I mean, I remember they're probably worth like closer to 650 to 625 now. I mean, the first one I bought like a while back, but at this point it's tripled, right? So it's doubled and then triple the original cost, right? So
Fabulous.
so it's been great. I mean, that's a lot of the capital that I've used to build the portfolio along with my principal residence, right? Just to continually refi and but the key is, like, if I didn't have that condo, if you didn't start, the key is always starting, right? You need to start and have that one helps you buy 4 and 5. You know what I mean? So 2 helps you buy 6 and 7, right? So what you got to keep, you got to start.
For someone who's looking to go full time, so actually this whole line has made me think, because I'm actually of the opinion that I think if you know too much, you won't get started. Versus, like, you shared in the previous interview we did about 2 years ago, was you weren't really thinking that you just needed a place to live at the time, so that's why you bought the first condo.
The condo, yeah. No, it was actually more. I bought it because I'm a chartered accountant. I was working for a big firm, and I had a good income, but I was blowing it on. Every weekend I was spending, Friday night, Saturday night, $200-300, going out with the friends and so forth. Right. So I needed a forced savings mechanism, and that was the reason I bought it. And also I was settling down, and I was, going to get married to my girlfriend, who's my wife at the time, and needed a place to live afterwards. So after marriage. So that was part of it as well. But really, I needed a forced savings mechanism. I didn't know anything about real estate. I just knew that if I had a mortgage payment, at least I was paying something off versus blowing it every weekend, right?
So at least nothing else, you got started.
Exactly.
And then what about it's a new year? I'm sure there's a lot of people who put on their New Year's resolutions that they want to quit their full-time job. I'm not endorsing anyone do that right away. Like, I like how you did it in a controlled fashion. But do you have any advice to anyone who's looking to do the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like, sometimes you got to really figure out, and I think I'm actually putting together a presentation. You got to really figure out what you enjoy doing. Okay, you may like your job, and you can hire people to do your real estate, or you might, not like elements of it, but maybe you can modify something. Like, you have to really figure out what you enjoy about your job. Let's assume if you didn't enjoy your job, some tips would be try to grow your portfolio as quickly as possible with cash flowing properties, right? But one thing I would say is always get the readvanceable mortgage if you can on the properties, because your ability to refinance gets harder. And at least if you have a readvanceable, you have access to the mortgage pay down. Before you quit, I would definitely go to all the banks that you deal with, or even if you don't deal with banks, start developing relationships with as many banks as possible, and apply for that unsecured debt on top of your secured debt. Because again, I use like my unsecured debt for renovations before I refi. You need that ability, as much ability as you can. I mean, as long as you know how to use debt, as a real estate investor, access to cost-effective debt, which is, on an unsecured is like 4.5, relative to private lending, which is 8, 9, 10, right? Like
sorry, that was true. You're paying. That's what you're paying. So for the listeners, unsecured. Coach is talking about like personal lines of credit. Lines of credit
not secured against
you're guaranteeing personally, yes, not secured on property.
Right. Yeah,
and you're paying 4.5%.
What's prime nowadays? 3.9 and 5, right? +1, prime +1. So say 5. Yeah, say 5 to keep it.
That's fantastic. No, that's just really good advice, because it's a lot cheaper than current National Bank prime rate is 3.95.
Yeah. So say 5.
Wow. Yeah, and that is cheaper than any sort of second mortgages.
For sure, and your ability to get those lines are a lot easier when you actually have a job, right? So definitely
throwing it at you.
Exactly. So build up your credit. Decide, decide you want to do it, right? Decide you're going to, like, don't be like, oh, I wish, like, you got to go out and do it. You got to spend that time looking at properties, that meeting people and understanding the strategies, understanding the areas. And what I did was I built up a little bit of a few clusters of areas that I liked, and I bought houses in those clusters. So I had some efficiencies in my services that I like, my handyman, my cleaners, my so forth, right? So you gotta spend that time to figure that out, and it's not easy. Like weekend evenings, you're gonna sacrifice. Like the time that I'm spending now with my kids is a time that I'm making up that I didn't spend earlier. When my kids would be like, "Dad, where are you going again?" So that's why, again, last year I just I didn't go gangbusters on the real estate side. I tried to spend more time, kind of refocus, that type of thing. I also needed, I needed a break, right? I was managing a portfolio. I was managing a full-time job. I was, the rep hockey kicked in. There was a lot going on. So sometimes you just need to kind of refocus and give yourself a break and then go again, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, Kaush, I know we're running out of time, but I do want to ask you about how's your stock hacking going? Because if you remember about 2 years ago, we were both kicked out of the group for inactivity. How's your stock hacking going?
No, it's going well. It's going well. I've added more capital, and I plan to add even more capital. It should be going through next week at some point, and I plan to continue to do that as a way to, like, so, you can't, like Omar was, you can't eat equity, right? So you can't use equity. So, like, it's harder to access, right? So I'll be using this strategy as a strategy to, have some of that extra cash flow on the side, go on vacations with, pay for a few things here and there, that type of thing. So, it's going well. I've only been assigned once. And it was actually in my second trade, and I was fine with it because it was Enbridge, and I actually wanted to get assigned something so I wouldn't fear it, and I understood how to do the covered call, so I did a covered call on it, and that call got assigned or got called away, so I went full cycle on it, and it's going well, and looking forward to just seeing over the full year how much return I can actually generate. So I kind of look at, like, the last 2 months as more of a trial period, and now I need to be a little more focused and kind of actually see how much this can generate in a year, right?
Can I ask what your return is? What has your return been as a percentage?
I don't know. I'll let you calculate it. You probably have a calculator. I mean, I've probably made just over 2,000.
Fabulous.
On is it 50K in a couple of months?
2,000 over 50K in just a couple of months, 4%. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, and like, were you doing any stocks? Because I don't think I asked you that before. Were you doing any stocks market stuffs before you took Stock Hacker?
No, I wasn't. I actually, I would just do ETFs, right? Learned about mutual funds a few years ago, and I switched everything to ETFs, and they were doing well as well. I created my own kind of portfolio of ETFs that was, well balanced. But at the end of the day, this strategy allows you to kind of generate a bit more than that. You're not constantly watching it, right? You're just kind of putting it in there, and you're kind of, 15, 20 minutes in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon, and you kind of just go on with your day, right? So,
right. And we cherry pick the best
strategy.
stocks.
I'm really thankful. Yeah, exactly.
We cherry pick the best stocks versus having everything.
Exactly. Definitely thankful to you and Omar and Matthew just for kind of bringing this to the membership and so forth. It's been a great additional income source. So
fabulous. Yeah, it's my honor to be able to share these things. It's my honor to have this podcast to share and to teach and to help people make more money. So good for people like yourself. You are a consistent volunteer and donor of our charity as well. And yeah, no, thank you, Kaush. Thank you for being a great client too.
No, it's a pleasure. Yeah.
Any final thoughts? I know being a parent is number one these days, and we're coming up on pickup kid time. Any final thoughts you want to share? Oh, and also, how can folks follow up with you if they like to follow up?
Yeah, I guess final thoughts. I mean, again, there's a lot of exciting things happening out there in the real estate world, and just lots of opportunities. You just gotta figure out what's right for you and kind of go after it. That's kind of the final thought there. What was the second thing you said?
How can people follow along? For example, where can people see the video? Because folks, I've seen the video of the delivery of the modular home on the crane off the flatbed onto the foundation. Super cool.
Well, mainly, I've just been kind of posting on Facebook. One of my goals for 2020 is to kind of market myself a bit better, get on more social media platforms. Mm-hmm. But at this point, mainly on Facebook. Is if you wanted to kind of add me on there, just kind of put a note that you're a real estate investor, you listen to the podcast, just so I know who you are. Mm-hmm. That would probably be the best way. So it's just Kaush Nanubhai. Or, if anyone wants to send me an email, I'm fine with that as well. It's K Nanubhai, KNANUBHAI @gmail.com.
I don't know why I'm writing it down because I have your email address. Kaush, thanks so much for doing this. And congratulations on your success. I can't wait to come out and see your build. I forget what I was doing when it was being done. There's a tour
on Sunday, right? So
is it this Sunday?
Yeah.
Sorry, folks, for listening to the recording. We're people. Friends of ours are touring Kaush's property this weekend. But when you hear this, this will already have happened. So. Sorry, folks. But yeah, if if you're open to having another tour in the future,
sure, if there's interest, I'm happy to share.
I'm sure there's interest, dude, because no one's done a modular.
Well, actually, to be honest, like I got to give Quentin D'Souza credit because I learned about this through him, and he did one a year ago. I don't think he publicized it as much as but mm-hmm. He's the person that. I was part of his Action Taker program, and he's the one who shared the contacts and kind of gave me the idea. So mm-hmm. Definitely want to kind of mention that. So he was the first to kind of do it. I'm just associate with good people who want to share, and I've been a benefactor. So including yourself, Quentin, and a lot of others, and I'm happy to give back. Is what I'm trying to say. If if other people want to learn more about this process or becoming a full-time investor, I actually I'm trying to put together 2 presentations. One on becoming a full-time investor, because I think there's a lot of tips like I shared today there's additional ones I can share, and then mm-hmm. another one on the severance process and building modular as well. So hopefully, if you have some time for me at IWIN, I could kind of share that with the IWIN, and I'm sure there's some other. I'm actually speaking at Quinton's club as well in February about the modular and severance process as well. So happy to share these things. I benefited a lot from being part of the community, and I do want to get back now as well.
We'll definitely have you out to IWIN. Probably need you for both presentations. And Quentin mentioned the modular home just briefly as we're ending our last interview because he had a fire, because that was the motivation for having the modular home to replace. Was it replaced the entire home? It was replaced the entire home, was it not?
Yeah, it did. It did. Yeah. So I was out for his build, and I was just so intrigued and fascinated by the process, and that's how I kind of got on the idea.
Yeah, same. I'm a real estate geek, so I'll definitely come for one of these tours. And if anyone's interested in doing these tours, you won't find out about it unless you are on our email list. So you can go to www.truthaboutrealestateinvesting.ca and just put in your name and email address, and you'll see an invite when we have a future date for if Kaush is willing to have us out for a future tour of this really super cool modular money making machine in St. Catharines, Ontario. And Kaush will be there, hopefully, unless we have to break in the door and without him.
For sure.
Kaush, thanks again so much for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, and appreciate it. And wish everybody the best in 2020.
Awesome. I'll see you Friday at golf.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Coach.